I put a kid in timeout. Entitled Mother Wants to Sue. About 5 years ago, when I was 20, I used to work as a yard supervisor at the local elementary school while I was on break from college. Wasn't much, but I'd get at least a month's worth of work in the summer and then a week in the winter. They were super lenient with my hours, probably because they tended to be short-handed, and also my mother worked at the school as a teacher too. I've told this story to so many people so many times, people might recognize me on here, but whatever. If you don't know what a yard supervisor is, we are the people who stand in the lunchroom or on the playground during recess and make sure kids are behaving. Basically glorified babysitters. I was the youngest of my coworkers, since the others who worked there were women who had kids that attended that school. For some background, this school was in the rich part of town. The kind of elementary school situated in a nice suburban neighborhood where everyone has a Cadillac and maybe a BMW, Mercedes, or Tesla as their second car. And they loved to try to solve all their inconveniences with lawyers. I always thought it was a stereotype that the rich people in town would threaten me with their lawyers when they didn't get what they wanted. Most of the time they were bluffing, though. Anyways, among the 4th graders at this school there was this kid named Hannah. Honestly don't remember, but her name may have actually been Hannah. I doubt it matters though. She was your classic playground bully, notorious liar, loved to pick on anyone smaller than her, which considering her size, there were plenty kids for her to choose from, and had quite the temper. She was also supposed to be in 5th grade, but had been held back a year, and she had this other girl named Sierra as her crony. Hannah always initiated the trouble and would boss Sierra around to do her bidding. She would even turn on Sierra occasionally. One time I witnessed Hannah shove Sierra and then run up to me telling me Sierra shoved her. Sierra, getting mad, would then shove Hannah, and at this point I'd send them both to the principal's office, and to my knowledge they'd just get off with a warning. Sierra's not important to this story, though. Just wanted to add that bit, so you can kind of picture Hannah and her like Scott Farkas and his crony. The situation was almost identical. None of my coworkers, including Hannah's teacher, liked Hannah. She was notorious for causing trouble and then making up elaborate lies to cover herself. Everyone knew this and had warned me when I first started the job. If you're wondering why nothing was ever done or why this child never got therapy, I have no idea. This was the US public education system, and also her mother was a bitch, which I'll get to later. One day I'm working in the lunchroom and I overhear Hannah calling another student names and making them cry. Supposedly she also hit the kid, but none of us witnessed it, though we wouldn't put it past her. We remove Hannah from the table and make her sit at this table we have reserved for delinquents while we write up a note to send to the principal. At best she would get detention or perhaps a couple days suspension, since this is a recurring problem. The bell for recess rings, and we make Hannah stay inside and sit at the table in timeout. No recess for her that day. The rest of the story I was not here for. I was only told the rest by my coworkers the next day. Hannah, returning to class, goes to her teacher and tells her, "The young yard duty hit me and called me names. I'm a young yard duty," being 20 while my coworkers were at least in their 40s. The teacher knows she's lying and tells her to take it up with the principal, since such a claim is serious. Hannah doesn't like the principal, so she instead after school goes to one of the other yard supervisors and tells her the same thing. That yard supervisor was working with me in the lunchroom that day and knew no such thing happened, and tells her not to tell lies. Hannah, of course, then goes to her mom. Hannah's mom had as much as a reputation around the school as Hannah did for being just an all-around unpleasant person. Hannah's mom is also under the impression that her daughter could never do any wrong, and that the school was constantly trying to pick on her. I think her claim was the school was bullying her for being fat. Or too pretty. It was one or the other, maybe both, since my only knowledge about this came from my coworkers. So you can probably guess her reaction when Hannah told her the story she made up. Hannah's mom, M for now, goes straight to the principal's office, starts cursing at the principal, and demands legal action be taken. The principal, Having been already notified of Hannah's behavior in the lunchroom that day, and being well acquainted with both Hannah and M's behavior, told Em the real story. Em insists I must have actually hurt Hannah, and that she's been bullied this entire time at school, and that saying Hannah did these things must be me trying to cover my ass, and that I must be on a power trip or something. She demands a lawsuit against me, and wants me in the office to face her. I had already left work for the day, and the principal was under no obligation to call me, and didn't care to entertain Em with her antics anyways. The principal then tells her, if I did do these things then she should file a police report. Em agrees, but this is where Hannah snaps. For some reason, perhaps just the way police are portrayed to kids as these heroes who will find you out, Hannah is terrified of the thought of having to talk to the police. So finally Hannah starts crying and spills that she made it up, and that nobody had hit her, and that she was just mad about missing recess for a timeout. Em, of course, now believes Hannah has been coerced into admitting this, because why would her little angel lie? Em storms out of the office, claiming she'll still get a lawsuit, and that's the last I hear about her. No lawsuit ever came, thankfully, because I know my broke college ass would never be able to afford it. Many of my coworkers told me that they've had lawsuits threatened on them from various parents aside from Em, but they never came to anything. It was almost a game for how many lawsuit threats can you get during your time at that school. One of my coworkers, before she ended up being fired for a claim Hannah made against her, that's another story. Principal didn't get a choice in it, and our school board, which was also just shitty in more ways than one, decided she had too many claims against her, and that she should be let go. Taught me a great quote from that ordeal. The bitch apple doesn't fall far from the bitch tree. I agree with your co-worker. Bullies grow up to be mean moms, and mean moms raise their children to be bullies. Thus, the cycle continues. Yeah, looking back I wish that kid could've seen a counselor or a therapist or something. I can't really imagine what her home life was like either. Never heard anything about the father.